Hello everyone, it is me, Knight, and you might see I have a new headset on. So if the audio is a little bit off, I'm sorry, I'm still kind of configuring a lot of things to it. It's a whole different type of microphone for my Logitech. It's a Razer. Anyway, so as you may see up in the title, I had just finished watching TLC from the WWE's pay-per-view. This happened to just a few moments ago, just finished, and so I wanted to give my review of it, my little thoughts about it. Now, mind you, there are certain matches I didn't care about. There are certain matches I didn't get a chance to see, and I will explain myself when the time comes to why I didn't see that match, because there's only one match. There's other matches I just didn't care to see at all, and I'll care to explain that one as well. And I'm sorry if I'm coughing. I'm still kind of getting over a little bit of a cold. But overall, there's that. And I also just want to mention this just before I start any of this out. Before the ending of the pay-per-view and before, obviously, the recording of this, just to mention that I was a little upset. So if it's just something that if I'm kind of seem riled up or in any way going into these matches, keep in mind I'm still kind of feeling good after the ending of the match, the ending of the match that they had last, plus the ending of the show. So I shouldn't be, but it might happen. Just saying. Anyway, let's start this off. Kickoff match was Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch, with Sasha Banks going over. Really good match. Little messed up finish, but, you know, considering it was pretty much 3-on-1, because Team Bad was at ringside, it made sense for Sasha to go over. Plus, she's got the fans behind her. More than Becky Lynch, more than Charlotte does, more than Paige right now. She's running high on the crowd and the crowd noise. So, I would see her in the main event for the Divas title soon enough. Just for the Divas title, or somewhere in that picture within the coming weeks. Not saying maybe next pay-per-view, but probably around WrestleMania time, possibly. We'll see then. But overall, the match was pretty solid. It didn't really have too many botches, but it was kind of almost last minute that I didn't care about the match. There was no implications to this match to prove who's going to be the next number one contender for the next match, or anything like that. So, yeah, pretty solid match overall. If you have not seen Sasha Banks or Becky Lynch wrestle, go watch them wrestle in their past matches. I'm sure you can find them on YouTube. Or if you do have the WWE Network, see some of the old NXT stuff. They are fantastic matches. So, that was the kickoff match. There's really not much to say about it. Again, Sasha Banks goes over. She's supposed to be the heel, although she's turning face considering the crowd's behind her. I think Team Bad's starting to turn face the way the crowd's behind them. It's weird. Oh well. So we move on to the Tag Team Championship Triple Threat Ladder Match. That's a lot of words. In this match we have the champions, the New Day, versus the Lucha Dragons and the Usos. And this is by far the match of the night. They did some really, really badass spots for these. They did them really well. I think there was only one botch I seen, and sure enough, it came from Sin Cara. And it may not be noticeable, but if you took like a second or maybe a third look at what happened, he kind of hits his head. Instead of he hits his head on the ladder instead of the body he was trying to do, senton or something like a swanton type dive or whatever it was that he was doing. He kind of missed it, and it hit either the back of his neck, right around the collar area, or the back of his head. Either way, he missed it. But it didn't seem to faze him too badly. Overall, the match was great. I do have one little gripe, and it almost sounds like I'm broken record. Why are the New Day champions still? I know people like them. Don't get me wrong. I know why they like them. As characters, they're fantastic to watch. They're the most entertaining thing to watch on Raw, for fuck's sake. My biggest issue is that they should not be champions. At no point, because they're not threatening. They're just not threatening. And I mean that because even in this match, they couldn't do it legitimately. Still, like, I know it's a no disqualification match, which fair enough. The match was solid in its own right without the interference anyway. And what I mean by interference is that Xavier Woods is not scheduled to be in this match. He's supposed to be on commentary, and that's it. And doing his whole shtick with the trombone. Why the hell is he getting involved in a match? Given it is no disqualification, given other things. But the match was solid without them, and I kind of want to drop the titles off them because he interferes in every fucking match. It doesn't matter if it's disqualification or not. Every fucking match. I get that's the gimmick that they're running with, but it's boring now. If they can't, like, to me, they're not legitimized as a heel anymore. They're just not. They put out a heel promo that really isn't a heel promo. People are cheering them, for fuck's sake. They are becoming more face than the faces of this match. Do you see my problem here? You know, they don't seem the least bit intimidating as a tag team. And when they want to be, it's not in the match. They just do it as a promo or a beatdown, and it takes all three of them to take down the guys. And I'm like, God, they can't do that in a match? They just couldn't have two of these guys who do a lot of the beatdown, and they can't do that in a match? I mean, two of these guys, before they became a team, were singles champions. One of them was an NXT champion. You can't do this. And not to mention, we have Xavier Woods, who used to be on TNA as Consequences Creed and a couple other shows, if not promotions, with the same name or a different name. And he's legitimately good. As heels, they're not as good as they should be. Like, they don't come off as heels anymore. And so when I see them as champion doing heelish things, but they don't act like heels, it's a broken record for this business, for the WWE right now. But it's really off-putting for them to be a champion at that point. And I'll get back to what I mean by that because it really deals with the Divas division as well. Like I said, Sasha Banks has become a more face than even the faces are in her own right. Besides Team Bad doing the same thing, New Day is exactly doing the same thing. And in this match, guess who wins? The New Day. They're still champions. They win because of the stupid interference, which they didn't need. It almost taints the match in a little way. I get maybe they want to keep the champion there. They want to keep them as champions because they got the crowd. And they're the most watched, probably, thing in television right now. But at the same time, they're a gimmick now. If they weren't before, they are now. And they created this new gimmick. They just don't seem as legitimate as they should be. It's weird. But what if that is to say, if I wanted to see the Lucha Dragons being champions? No, I didn't want to see them. The Usos, I think they need a little bit more time, so I'm kind of glad the New Day won, but they could have done it legitimately and not have to have Xavier Woods. Because if you watch that match, that was a great match. It didn't need to have that. That was the last thing it needed. It could have been match of the year, in my opinion, if it was just left alone. I mean, this is going against Cena versus Owens for the first time. Because right now, that still stands as match of the year. And Owens is a legitimate heel. Just saying. So we move on to the next match, which is Rusev versus Ryback. Does anybody care? I don't care. It wasn't that great of a match. It was an okay match. But I don't care. This is a match that no one cared. Like, they're trying to build Rusev and Lana back together as this heel faction style team again. Rusev's now part of the League of Nations, which I guess because he's from Bulgaria, that makes sense. I don't really know. The thing is, though, the reason why it's like this right now really is because of Rusev's fault. We all remember the debacle with Lana and Dolph Ziggler and Rusev, that whole love triangle thing going on there. It just never stuck. A lot of that was because Rusev fucked up his heel and broke it in a match. Now he goes back into the matches. Now he has Lana again. But before then he proposes marriage to her. When DMZ reveals it, it ruined that whole storyline they were trying to go with. And that's been kind of the case this year for the WWE. It seems like almost every story they do, for a storyline perspective, gets kind of ruined because of one or the other. Mainly injury is being the main problem. Rusev and Ryback it didn't. No, don't continue that feud if you can help it. It really wasn't fun to watch. It looked kind of boring. It looked like just a normal match I would see on Raw. And by the way, we've seen it twice on Raw earlier in the month. So, there you go. Rusev wins. No big surprise. Lana's turning heel again. And she was better as a face. She still looks like a baby face in terms of the way she dresses, her hairstyle. She doesn't look like the original Lana that was a heel. She looks like the Dolph Ziggler version of a heel. Like, if she took the idea of becoming a Dolph Ziggler Lana and stuck with that hairstyle, that way she kind of dresses, and then fused it back to the Rusev design of Lana, and just kind of fused them, it doesn't really work. I don't know where they're going with this. Like, that whole thing just kind of, I don't know where they're going. I have no idea. That, and I just don't care about Rusev as a wrestler. His character is just dead. It's been dead since WrestleMania. Not to mention his fact that he got that injury kind of really killed him. He just hasn't really recovered, and he hasn't stood out. So, as for Ryback his character's been dead since freaking Survivor Series of 2014. He hasn't recovered at all. So yeah, that didn't really help. Moving on, Alberto Del Rio, who is United States champion, versus Jack Swagger in a United States Championship chairs match. I really don't understand what a chairs match is. I understood what a ladder match was. I understand what a tables match is. What's a chairs match? You would think immediately when you have a chairs match, first person to get hit in the head or in the back or anywhere in the body with a chair, they lose. Because it's pretty much what a tables match is. First person to go through a table loses. And with the ladder match, is the first person who reaches the championship or whatever thing is hanging over the freaking ring. First person to get it wins. I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. So what the fuck is a chairs match? They hit them, and then they pin them. Beside the point. It was a fairly decent match. As decent as you can get with Jack Swagger and Alberto Del Rio. But it really wasn't interesting. It's another one where the storyline that they had going for it kind of got fucked because of the League of Nations. Remember what I said about the previous match, that no one cares, their whole storyline gets fucked, and it's a constant thing with the WWE this year? This was another example. The the whole point of this match for Jack Swagger trying to take on Alberto Del Rio was because of the whole Mex-American shtick that Alberto Del Rio and Zeb Coulter were supposed to be going with. And because of the League of Nations, they just called it off. Like 2 weeks. Done. It went nowhere. There was no payoff to it. There was no storyline to it. It went nowhere. It was lost. What the fuck? So, going into this match, you're not really caring who's going to win. You know who's going to win. It's going to be Alberto Del Rio. He wins. That's what happens. He goes over Jack Swagger because there's no reason for Jack Swagger to go in this match now. There's no payoff for him. There's no payoff to the storyline. There's nothing. It just wasn't that good. In terms of the storyline perspective. As a match, it's pretty solid. It's solid as you can get. But the storyline wasn't there, and it just felt like it was fodder. That's it. So we got the next match. Wyatt family versus Team ECW, which consisted of Dudley Boyz, Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino. 8-man elimination tables match. Pretty self-explanatory. You go through a table, you're eliminated. Match was solid. As solid as it could get. Team ECW eliminated Rowan. He was the first one to leave. And by the way, what kind of fall from grace Eric Rowan's been on lately? When has his last match been that he's won? By himself, let alone. He's become the jobber of the Wyatt family. And he has been ever since the Wyatt family split up. Back last year. I mean, that's a long fucking time. This is over pretty much about a year now. And he hasn't won. Once. Not that I've seen, at least. If he's won on SmackDown or Superstars, I didn't watch those. I don't like watching SmackDown all that much. And Superstars, why? Why do I pay myself to watch that? What's the pain for? I watch enough just watching Raw in the pay-per-view, you know? But anyway, yeah, he's the first one eliminated. Then one, Rhino, Devon, Tommy, and Bubba Ray. They all fall down. 3 of the Wyatts survived. So what was the point of eliminating Eric Rowan? You could have easily just said they clean sweep them. What was the point of eliminating one of them? Like, at least if you're going to do that, at least eliminate either Luke, Harper, or Bray, or Strowman. One of those 3 to make it seem like a good idea. To at least feel like this is a possibility that they've eliminated Strowman. It would be the first one or something like that. You know, make it feel right. If you're going to eliminate one person off a team, at least eliminate another one so it feels like a good vibe match. Feels like it's very, very entertaining to watch. When you have, like, one of them is eliminated and then the rest of the other team just gives up and loses, not really feeling it now, am I? You know, it had potential to be a lot better than it was, and it just wasn't. If you're gonna eliminate one person, at least eliminate another one to make it feel like it's a good match to watch. You know, it goes back to Survivor Series last month. I mean, the kickoff show, then they eliminated Neville, and then the rest of the team face won. What the fuck happened? You know, you couldn't let them have a sweep, a clean sweep. Wyatt's win, obviously. They win three with three members solo survival. I also want to mention, and I think I know why they had Team ECW lose, was pretty much because they're trying to build up newer talent, and that's fair. Understandable. They have to give them over. And the way the Wyatt family has been in recent weeks, they have not gotten over. So it seemed a fair thing to do. But in the case of the Dudley Boys, who have been here since the day after SummerSlam, they haven't won a great match in a while either. So I'm hoping if they have a match with the Wyatts at Royal Rumble, the Dudleys fucking win. Just give them a fucking win to make it worthwhile. Ask, give them a win. They haven't really had one. Moving on. Next match was Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens, who is the Intercontinental Champion in an Intercontinental Championship match. Fucking great match. What else could I say? It was fantastic. They went back and forth. Dean hits the dirty deed to think he's going to win. 1, 2, and somehow, some way, Owens put 2 fingers on the bottom rope to be able to survive. That's what I call luck, and goddamn, that was pretty cool. It sucks, but it's pretty cool. Owens gets ready to do the pop-up powerbomb. Dean counters it into a Hurricanrana and then pins him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And we have a new Intercontinental Champion in Dean Ambrose. Congratulations, we finally got what the universe has been wanting, a championship on Dean Ambrose. He hasn't had one since the United States Championship, and he held that for like 8 months before finally losing it, you know? And he didn't really defend it that much. Now he's able to have a match where he can defend it. You know, it's about time. He's been on the back burner for so long, but he's had so many people get him over. Almost feels like Daniel Bryan in that sense. I'm glad he's finally a champion. That being said, the next match is going to kind of bring me down a bit. But we'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, it was a solid match. Probably the second best match of the card. And yeah, good on them for finally giving Ambrose a championship. At least let him run for once. Given it's Intercontinental Championship, and that hasn't been legitimized in quite some time. But hopefully he can do it. We wish Daniel could have done it before he got injured, so let's just hope. Anyway, moving on. Divas Championship match. Champion Charlotte versus Paige. And they've been building up this kind of weirdly. And I mean kind of weirdly is that Paige seems to be more of a neutral party now. Whereas Charlotte has seemed to gone heelish or go more of the way of her father. Playing dirty tricks in her matches and everything. She had a Divas Championship match with Becky Lynch a few weeks back. It was pretty good. And then she faked tweaking her leg or her knee or ankle or something like that. And when Becky's back was turned, she went and rolled up a pin 1, 2, 3, and 1. It was like you could kind of see this elements of possibly they're going to turn her heel. And you could feel it coming off. So you're thinking maybe there's going to be a double turn going into TLC. And this is where I can't say if they did or not. Because when this match was going on, I decided to hop on to World of Warcraft to do some checking up on my warrior or my mage, to see if I had any mail, in-game mail, whatever. Things I do on World of Warcraft because I like playing the game. And my guild wanted to talk to me, which distracted me from the pay-per-view. I was able to catch the ending a little bit. I know who won. It was Charlotte. but I didn't get to see how it was won, so I'm sorry if it was a good match. I didn't see it. I can't explain it. This also goes into the heavyweight title match. This conversation I had with my guild was pretty serious. I had to talk to them. They wanted me to talk to them. That's where I kind of got upset. That's where I was a little bit mad. Kept my composure. But I'm pissed off at it that I had to go through that because they interrupted me on what I wanted to do. But I missed majority of the Sheamus versus Roman Reigns WWE World Heavyweight Championship TLC match. Because I missed most of it, I was able to catch maybe the last 5 minutes of it. Because I finally was able to get everything cleared up with the guild, and I was upset, and I said, I'm hoping something good happens tonight. I'm just hoping something good happens tonight on the pay-per-view, because I'm not in the greatest of moods now. And it didn't quite hit. Sheamus wins, and you know how I said interference in a ladder match with the New Day? It did it again. This time, Alberto Del Rio and Rusev came in to aid Sheamus, who was about to lose, pulled Roman Reigns down from the ladder, started beating him down, helped Sheamus to the ladder. Roman Reigns tries to make a comeback, only gets to get bro kicked out of the ring, and then he tries to get back in, but it's just too late. There's not enough time for him. Sheamus gets the title and wins and celebrates. Yeah. Not happy. That is until what happened next. My frown turned upside down and became a huge smile. Because they finally, and I mean finally, made me care about Roman Reigns more. Now, how do you do this? One, you give him the opportunity to do it. You can't always beat him down. So what did they do? They let him go nuts, crazy, wild. They let him do what he's good at and when he was with the Shield. Just beat the living fuck out of everyone and everything in sight. That was what he was best at in the Shield. Let's let him do it again. So, bam! He hits Rusev and Alberto, who were carrying Sheamus on their shoulders, with a spear. So he took them both down. Then he grabs a chair and just starts beating the hell out of every single one of them. And then he keeps hitting freaking Sheamus. Almost similar to when Stone Cold Steve Austin hit The Rock like 35 to 60 times with a steel chair at WrestleMania 17. And it was glorious because you finally get this like sense of emotion, this raw, pure emotion that he's been held down since WrestleMania 31. And he finally getting his anger, his stress, his frustrations out of him. It was glorious to watch, and it was the best thing to happen in the show. You left me with the smile on my face, WWE. That's what you want. So he beats Sheamus, eventually the Authority, which is really a bunch of referees at this point, because that's what it was. It's just a ton of referees and Triple H and his wife just coming out telling him to stop. So he calms down enough. Triple H gets in the ring, calms down, he's yelling at him, only to get Superman punched. Then Reigns grabs the chair and starts beating the hell out of him. You can just see this crazed look in his eye. Triple H rolls out of the ring. Reigns gets out of the ring, takes the Spanish Announce table stuff, power bombs him on top of the table. The table stays alive. Doesn't fall over, doesn't do anything. He just stays alive. Then he stops onto the announce table, jumps from it to the Spanish announce table with an elbow, breaks the table, and you just feel like, yes, this is what I wanted to see from him. I didn't want to see anything else. Anything they've ever tried with Roman Reigns has not worked. So what do you do at that point? Let him just go. Just let him have that moment to just destroy things. Because he looks like a guy that can do that. So he got this raw emotion, and as he's leaving, he sees that Triple H is getting up. And autofocus. There we go. You can see him just looking back at Triple H, who's being carried off, looking like he's been through, like he got hit by a Mack truck, of pain. He can't walk. He's being held up by all the refs, dragged pretty much to the back. Roman Reigns turns around, he says, nah, not like this, and just spears him like you've never seen him spear a person before. Like, he gave out a shoot promo at that point. It was great. It was glorious. This is what we've been wanting from Reigns. We want some of that attitude from him because we haven't gotten it. He's always been kind of playing fun. The last Monday, he was making fun of Sheamus and potatoes with tater tots. It really wasn't a great promo. What we needed was someone getting their ass beat. We really did, and we finally got it. So there was a huge payoff for this pay-per-view, and it was the most glorious thing to watch. Now, that doesn't mean that the whole show goes up in like a bunch of points, because there are a lot of faults with this show. This show kind of was mediocre. Was it better than the last few that they put out? Hell yeah. But was it as glorious as it should have been? No. Outside of the ending, most of the middle was lackluster. We're not caring. They didn't build up any stories to them. It just wasn't there. Like, the one thing I wanted to see, and they should have done this, was have the Usos and Dean Ambrose win their championships, and then have Roman Reigns lose his match. Because then you have this thing where he might perhaps turn heel. It would have been better for the story. But they didn't do that because they want to keep New Day as champions. Understandably, because they get the crowd. But at the same time, it would have been better in terms of story. So it was either that, or you do it the reverse way, where Reigns becomes champion, but you didn't have Ambrose and the Usos becoming champions. They kind of just went middle ground. Didn't really build up any story. Especially with the League of Nations being a thing now, where that's a faction with Sheamus, Rusev, Alberto Del Rio, and Wade Barrett. By the way, where the fuck was Wade Barrett? He was at the show, but he didn't come out to help Sheamus. And on top of that, where is he? He hasn't really had very many matches since returning. I think he's just really injury prone or something like that. If you're going to make him a faction, make him threatening. Make him more imposing. They're not really imposing. Whereas Roman Reigns, he has his family, which really are his cousins and one of his best friends in terms of character that he calls a brother. Make more to it. On top of this, we also have League of Nations supposedly had a New Day a part of it, and then we never see them together again. So stuff like that, flesh it out, make the story happen. And they didn't make that happen. So a lot of the stories that went into this pay-per-view are left just wide open. New Day didn't really have a story going in. Rusev and Ryback, their feud was kind of meh. No one cared. They destroyed any story line that they had with Alberto Del Rio and Jack Swagger. The Wyatt family versus Team ECW at least had some semblance of a storyline there, and it seems like they might continue it. Ambrose versus Owens was a story that was dating back from the previous month when Dean beat Owens in the tournament to go against Roman Reigns for the championship. So it made sense for them to kind of have that feud for their Intercontinental title. Charlotte versus Paige, the story seems like it's going nowhere, and on top of that, I don't even know if they double turned or not. And then, of course, Sheamus versus Roman Reigns. It's now seems like it's League of Nations versus Roman Reigns. And then now it even gets more into it where it seems like the Authority and League of Nations versus Roman Reigns. Now, the end of this pay-per-view, they said Roman Reigns is more likely going to be fired for this. Now, that might be part of the story. It may be that Triple H says, I want to fight him at the next pay-per-view at Royal Rumble, and maybe that'll do something. I don't know. But there's a lot of semblance of possibilities here. So we'll see how it goes. I'm a little bit more hyped up for Royal Rumble now. But it was because of that ending that made this pay-per-view that much better. That's what I want to see in an ending. At least in the smaller pay-per-views. Not the big four, just the smaller ones. And get those storylines. If you're going to make a story for each one of these matches, make a storyline happen. A lot of these were just like, no one cares. Why is this one happening? Its story is no longer useful. Things like that. So if I gave this a rating out of 10, this whole pay-per-view, I would say it's about a 7. It's not quite up there yet as it should be. It should have been maybe an 8. But it's just the fact that the storylines just don't seem to be anywhere in existence, and no one was really caring about this pay-per-view. That is until they watched the damn thing. Then they cared. So, yeah. It's about a 7, and that's pretty much average right now for WWE. It's been about 7s repeatedly. They have their moments, but it's not the entire thing. The last decent pay-per-view that they put out was WrestleMania 31. And that was because that was actually really decent to watch. On top of that, the storylines seem to all stick together. And they usually do that for WrestleMania. So hopefully, with Royal Rumble coming around the corner and they have the stories coming all together, we get to the WrestleMania 32 and we have something. This also brings me to my next point. If you have not read this already and you are a wrestling fan, Sting will not be there. More than likely not be at WrestleMania 32. It's dealing with his injury, and it seems like he needs major surgery with it, which means it's more than likely he's not going to be wrestling at WrestleMania 32, which also means no possibility of Undertaker versus Sting. And this was probably the last year that we were thinking it might happen, because we looked at Undertaker and the way he was being billed. It seems like he's probably going to have one more match in him, and that's it. So the whole story is that more likely it's going to be John Cena. Problem with it, as much as legitimate as John Cena is as a wrestler and as a character, and the way he has that character acts, it's too little too late. He's the one that should have broke the streak. He needed it more. If you wanted to turn him heel, that would have been the way to turn him heel. There was no other way outside of AAing sick children. Because really, there's nothing that you could kill that character's face streak now. He's built the character to where it's almost reminiscent of Hulk Hogan back in the 80s and early 90s. It's really difficult to change that persona down, especially when you don't have a lot of fans watching your product anymore. So, I don't know what they're planning to do. I heard that was the major rumor that John Cena and Undertaker are going to do it at 32 for the match, and I'm not as interested as I would have been if that was the streak match. You know, Undertaker at WrestleMania doesn't seem as important anymore, because they played that card of streak, and that was what billed you to watch it, and now it's not there anymore. I guess that's what they want to do. I don't know. I honestly, I don't think they should go with that. I think they should try to think of something different. Anyways, if there's any other matches, I don't know what they have planned for WrestleMania, but we'll see. Royal Rumble's around the corner in January. We'll see how good that one is. I might do a review of the NXT takeover event in London, or I think it's London. Pretty sure it is. Next Saturday, I might do a review. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But usually, if it's anything like any other pay-per-view style NXT, it's going to be fucking great. It's going to destroy anything the WWE pay-per-views have done this year. So we'll see. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Good night.